reading, happiness, love, romance, passion, sex, intelligence, overworking. Something is common among all these words. And if you throw them into Google and search for what's common, you will notice that there are articles, there are posters out there on the web where they claim that each of these is overrated. அதுல particular ஒரு word ரொம்ப frequent people say it is overrated. And that is the word we're going to talk about today. Namaste. Long back, around 10, 12 years ago, Elon Musk, when asked about, hey, what is it to be an entrepreneur? You have not built one company, not two companies. You have been a serial entrepreneur and you have been quite successful at it. என்ன உன்னுடைய ரகசியம் அப்படின்னு கேட்டதுக்கு he says the tolerance for pain வேணும்பா. You need to be able to withstand tremendous amounts of pain. You need to, in fact, want it. எனக்கு இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் வலி கொடு அப்படின்னு கேட்கிற ஆளா நீ இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு he specifically says being an entrepreneur is like staring into the abyss. ஆழமே தெரியாத ஒரு பாழ் கிணறு, அதள பாதாளம். You are staring into the abyss, no idea what's inside, no idea what's waiting for you. And while doing that, you're also eating glass. Staring into the abyss, eating glass. That is how Elon Musk conveys what the entrepreneur's life is like. இதுக்கும் முன்னாடி, when Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they got together, very rare. You don't see these two opponents actually. Silicon Valley la iru maaperum companigal Apple and Microsoft, they don't sit together too often. When they got together, D conference abdinu or recent before Steve Jobs' death, just a couple of years before it, adula Steve says something very important about the importance of passion. The passion na enna, yen adu mukkiyam abdin. Listen.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, and you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up, being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that are successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion.
சும்மா passion ஒரு வார்த்தையில சொல்லிட்டு போயிட்டார் பெரியவர். What is that passion? And is it really overrated? And is it a general word we can throw at something and be passionate about it and we'll succeed? Or is there some formula for it? எதன் மேல் passion? எப்படி passion? எப்பெல்லாம் passion? Is there some formula? அப்படின்னு யோசிச்சீங்கன்னா, this might be a good guidebook for you. It's called the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. Darren Hardy அப்படிங்கிறவர் எழுதின book. In this book, he talks about 4 switches. Not 1, not 2, 4 switches. Each of these 4 you can turn on. Each of these four you can be passionate about, and each of them will lead you with different intensity, with different stamina and sustainability towards your goal. What are those four switches? The first switch, it's like lightning. மின்னல் மாதிரி. எப்போ வரும் தெரியாது. அடுத்தது எப்போ வரும் தெரியாது. ரொம்ப powerful, very powerful. It can break a house down, it can burn a tree up, but you can't read a book in the light you get from lightning, however bright it is. So the question there is being passionate about what you do. Am I passionate about what I am doing? நல்ல கேள்விதான். அதை வச்சு நிறைய பேர் கரியர் முடிவு பண்றாங்க. But there is a very fundamental problem hiding there. We have seen this problem earlier too. The problem is this 95-5 division between what you really like doing and all the other things you have to do to get there. இல்லையா? Work is going to suck 95% of the time. நீ என்ன வேலை பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தாலும், ஏஆர் ரஹ்மானாவே இருந்தாலும், ஏபி டெவிலியர்ஸாவே இருந்தாலும், there is a lot of other work that you have to do to somehow get to that 5% awesome work. Yes, that's awesome, ecstatic, but மின்னல் மாதிரி. அதை நம்பி இது மேல நான் பேஷனேட்டா இருக்கேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி don't be misled. We have talked about it in an earlier Quotidian 079. அதுல வந்து இந்த 80-20 rule பத்தி பேசிருப்போம். Pareto's principle. In fact, இன்னைக்கு நான் சொல்றத பார்த்தா it is not 80-20, it is 95-5. Beware. What is the second switch? The second switch, சூரியன் மாதிரி. It's there, high up in the sky, guiding you, giving you warmth, giving you light all that time. Okay, not all the time. இரவு நேரத்துல கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டம். But it's there. All you have to do is look up. And the second question that you have to ask yourself is, am I passionate about why I am doing it? We have seen this earlier too. We have seen this in the form of starting with why. Simon Sinek koda and the golden circle பத்தி பேசிருக்கோம். Start with why. That's the most important thing you have to do. Not what you're producing, not the manufacturing process, but why you're doing it. அது ரொம்ப முக்கியம் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம். அதை இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் அலசி ஆராயணும் அப்படின்னா, yes, there is an earlier quotidian for you. It is 201. ஏன் அப்படின்னு கேட்டு ஆரம்பிக்கிறது அப்படி. Yes, that is the second switch, and it is much better than being passionate about what you're doing. What you're doing is about the thing that you are getting ready, and why you're doing it is the impact it is going to have. So, whatangarada vida why is more important. What is the third switch? The third switch, it's like a table lamp. Anytime you want, you can switch it on. You can bring something close to it. You can get light shined on it, and you can make better sense. The question in the third switch is, are you passionate about how you are doing it? The passionate about why I am doing it irukku illaya, adu vandu only when the end result is meaningful enough, good enough, you can say, okay, this is the end result and this is the impact it's having, and so that is my why and I am passionate about it. But what about all the beginners? What about all the newcomers? What about all those starry-eyed entrepreneurs who want to get started, who are shabby with what they are doing now, who are not skilled, who are clueless? அவங்களுக்கும் ஒரு வழி வேணுமே. அவங்களுக்கு என்ன solution? Start by being passionate about how you are doing it, the process, the method. And the 95-5 rule inga break aayidum. Because even if I am spending only 5% of my time doing that what, even in that rest of that 95% of the time, I will be doing things that prepare me for that 5%. And that is the how. So I get to enjoy that ecstasy much more than just doing it in the 5%. So that is the third question. Be passionate about how you are doing it. The routines, the little things, the consistency, the sustained effort you put in every day, becoming incrementally better. அதுதான் நம்ம flow அப்படின்னு கூட பார்த்திருக்கோம். When you are in flow, you don't even notice the passage of time. You don't know you're getting hungry, you're getting tired. You are in a zone of your own. You're challenged and you know that your capabilities can meet that challenge. That is the switch number 3. Be passionate about how you are doing it. Great. இதெல்லாம் தாண்டி, what is the fourth switch? What is the most important switch perhaps? That is the switch that you can wear on your head. Torchlight மாதிரி உங்க ஹெல்மெட்ல மாட்டிட்டீங்கன்னா, wherever you turn, whenever you want, whatever you want light to be shined on to will be lit up anytime. Isn't that the most comfortable? The question here is, are you passionate about who you are doing it for? யாருக்காகடா பண்ற? மக்களுக்காகவா, நாட்டுக்காகவா, தற்பெருமைக்காகவா, மதர் எர்த்துக்காகவா, குடும்பத்துக்காகவா, உன் கம்பெனிக்காகவா, உன் காம்படிட்டரை அழிக்கணுங்கிறதுக்காகவா? Who are you doing it for? Just yesterday, news hit us about Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO. His son, Zain Nadella, passing away at the young age of 26. 26 வயசு தான் அவருக்கு. Cerebral palsy, severe case of cerebral palsy. 26 வயசுலயே அவருக்கு உயிர் போயிட்டு. And I was reminded of the book Hit Refresh that he wrote. சத்யா நாதெல்லா சிஇஓவா இருக்கும் பொழுதே எழுதின புத்தகம் அது. அதுல ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் சாப்டர்ல he talks about the impact his son and the problem his son has had on his career. I have highlighted a little box there, but you can read the whole thing. He says, நான் அந்த ஹாஸ்பிட்டலுக்கு போய் அவனை பார்க்கறேன், சுத்தி பீப் பீப் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கு, மானிட்டர்ஸ்லாம் இருக்கு, ஹார்ட்வேர் இருக்கு, சாஃப்ட்வேர் இருக்கு, கிளவுடுக்கு டேட்டா சப்மிட் பண்ணுது அப்படின்னாங்க. அப்பதான் எனக்கு புரிஞ்சது, our work at Microsoft transcended business. பிசினஸ், பணம், ரெவென்யூ, ப்ராஃபிட்லாம் தாண்டி, அதையும் தாண்டி ஒரு படி மேல ஒரு உயிரை அப்படியே காப்பாத்தி அதை மெயின்டைன் பண்ணி அதுக்கு கம்ஃபர்ட் கொடுக்கிற அந்த வேலையை நம்ம பண்றோம் அப்படிங்கிற ஃபீலிங் எனக்கு வந்தது. ஒரு ஃப்ராஜைல் யங் பாய், ரொம்ப ஈஸியா மனம் ஒடிந்து போய் விடக்கூடிய ஒரு பையனுக்கு நம்ம ஒரு லைஃப் லைனா இருக்கோம் அப்படின்னு புரிஞ்சது. And then he says, being an empathetic father and bringing that desire to discover what is at the core, the soul, makes me a better leader அப்படின்னு சொல்றார். I recommend that you read the whole book, but this is the essence of how he conveys the impact his son has had. ஒவ்வொரு நாளும் வேலையை முடிச்சுட்டு வீட்டுக்கு போகும்போது அவனை பார்க்கும்போது அப்படின்லாம் அதுல எழுதுறார். So the question you ask yourself here is, am I passionate about who I am doing it for? That is the final question. That is probably the most important question. ஏன்னா 4 switches பார்த்தோம். What am I doing? Am I passionate about it? Why am I doing? Am I passionate about that? How am I doing it? Does that stoke passion in me? Who am I doing it for? That is the most important type of passion. இந்த passion அப்படின்னு நம்ம பார்க்கும்போது அந்த வேர்டோட உள்ளர்த்தம், ஒரிஜினல் அர்த்தம் தேடிண்டு போறது நல்லது அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறேன். If you search in Google for passion etymology, அந்த கதை, அந்த வார்த்தை உருவான கதை அப்படின்னு எழுதிட்டு போனீங்கன்னா you will notice something very interesting. லாட்டின், பிரெஞ்சு எல்லாம் கலந்து இருக்கு அந்த வார்த்தையில. Pati, Latin, to endure, to undergo, to experience. Passionem, suffering, enduring. Christ's passion, physical suffering. தாங்க முடியாத வலியை சகித்துக் கொள்ளுதல், ஏனென்றால் பிடித்திருப்பதினால். The passion of Jesus Christ அப்படின்னு ஒரு சினிமாவே வந்தது. என்னடா பேஷனுக்கும் ஜீசஸ் கிரைஸ்டுக்கும் அப்படின்னு கூட யோசிச்சோம். மெல் கிப்சனோட படம் அது. அப்புறம் தான் புரிஞ்சது, the original meaning of that word is suffering and enduring because you are driven by a higher purpose. So வார்த்தையோட அர்த்தத்தை நல்லா புரிஞ்சுக்குங்க, கரெக்டான ஸ்விட்சை ஆன் பண்ணுங்க. Meet you at the other side. By the way, we are done with 2. I'll meet you on the line. Thank you.